The alien princess spent one night with a human, now she wants every night. Mark was tired more than tired. After 5 days on patrol near the border planets, his legs were weak, his armor scratched, and his eyes heavy with sleep. Dust clung to his clothes. The Galactic Embassy was supposed to be a place of rest and order. A soldier could finally drop his weapon and breathe without checking over his shoulder. When he arrived at the front desk, the officer barely looked up. "Room 17, he said. End of the corridor. Mark nodded, not asking questions. His head throbbed, and all he wanted was a clean bed and silence. He walked down the long hallway, his boots echoing softly. The door to room 17 slid open with a soft beep, but the room was not empty. Inside stood a tall, elegant figure with silver white hair, glowing violet eyes, and a calm expression. She was dressed in soft royal robes with golden threads woven across the edges. Her posture was straight, noble. Her presence filled the room like silent music. Mark froze. She didn't move, didn't scream, didn't even blink. For a moment, the room felt frozen in time. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "You're late," she said. "I've already claimed this room." Mark opened his mouth, but no words came. "I'll leave," he finally said. "Must be a mistake. I didn't know it was." She raised a hand gently. "No need. There are 2 beds. You look exhausted. Stay, stay." This was a royal, not just any royal, but Princess Alara of the Zurak Empire, the only child of Supreme Commander Varn. Her name alone held power across 5-star systems. Sleeping in the same room as her wasn't just unusual, it was dangerous. Yet, she looked at him with strange eyes, not cold, not angry, just tired. Maybe even a little lonely. Mark hesitated. His instinct screamed leave, but something deeper said stay. So he placed his gear at the foot of the second bed and sat down, eyes still locked on her. Alara returned to her seat by the window. Outside, the stars blinked like silent watchers. She spoke again. "You have scars on your hands. From weapons." Mark nodded. "Training blades. Some real fights, too." She looked at her own hands. They were flawless, smooth, untouched by battle. "I train too," she said softly. "But it's different when it's real, isn't it?" He nodded again. Silence fell. Later that night, Mark lay on the bed, unable to sleep. Every soldier knew the rules: never get close to royalty, never be alone with them, and never question their space. And yet, here he was. The lights dimmed automatically at midnight. He could hear her breathing, slow, steady, peaceful. He turned to face the wall. Then he heard her whisper, "You don't have to be afraid. I'm not like them." Mark didn't ask. Not yet. Morning light filtered in through the tinted glass. When Mark opened his eyes, he realized something unusual. He had slept deeply. For the first time in months, Alara was already awake, sitting by the window with a cup of steamberry tea. She looked rested. "You didn't have nightmares," she said. "Neither did I." He blinked in surprise. "How would you know? I usually do." She smiled faintly. "You talk in your sleep." Mark's face turned a shade redder than usual. "Sorry, no need," she replied. "I like knowing someone real is nearby." Real, that word stayed in Mark's mind. Later that day, whispers spread through the embassy. "Did you hear? The human soldiers slept in the princess's room. Is this a scandal? Or a security breach? Why didn't she report it?" But Alara said nothing, and neither did Mark. They went their separate ways during the day, but that night, when Mark returned, he found the same room key still assigned to him. Room 17. She was there, waiting, calm as ever, no changes. He asked. "I told them I wanted things to stay the same," she replied. "Is that all right?" Mark paused, then nodded. "Yeah, it's all right." And so began the first night, the night that changed everything. Neither of them knew where it would lead, but something had started. Something neither a princess nor a soldier had ever expected. The second night came with no orders, no changes, no warnings. Mark returned from his scheduled briefing late in the evening, expecting the room to be reassigned, or at least someone waiting to question him. But room 17's soft door light still blinked green. His name was still on the digital plaque. Inside, the lights were dim, The room smelled faintly of wild moonflower Zurak incense, the kind royals used to calm their nerves. Princess Alara sat cross-legged on her bed, in quiet meditation. A small sphere hovered near her head, glowing a soft violet. It pulsed slowly, in rhythm with her breath. She opened her eyes when he entered. Not startled, not annoyed, calm. "You're back later than yesterday," she said gently, debriefing. "Went long," he replied, removing his jacket. "I thought maybe today would be different. It isn't," she said. He looked around. "Still no guards outside your door?" "No need," she said. "You're here." That sentence. 3 small words, but heavy with meaning. Mark sat down on the edge of his bed. "I'm just a soldier. You shouldn't trust me so easily." "I don't," she said. He turned to look at her, surprised. She smiled faintly. "I trust the way I feel around you. Not you, not yet." The night grew quiet. Mark lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He could hear Alara's soft breathing again. Slower tonight, more peaceful. But then it changed. Suddenly, it became sharp, ragged. Then she gasped. Mark sat up instantly. "Alara," she didn't respond. Her eyes were closed, her hands clenched the sheet. She was trapped in something invisible. "Alara," he said louder. She woke with a jolt, eyes wide, body stiff. For a second, she looked around, like she didn't know where she was. Then her gaze found him, and her breath slowed. "You're still here," she whispered. He nodded. "It was a nightmare?" She said nothing. Mark stood and walked closer. Careful, respectful. He didn't touch her. She was still shaking. "I have them too," he said. "Nightmares, I know," she replied. "But mine are memories." Memories, that word sent a chill through the air. "I thought your people didn't talk about trauma," Mark said. "They don't," she replied. "But I'm not like them." He sat on the edge of her bed, keeping a respectful distance. "I won't ask you what they're about." She turned toward him. "Good. Because I wouldn't tell you yet." A silence settled between them, not cold, not awkward, just quiet understanding. After a while, she whispered, "Stay. Until I fall asleep." He hesitated, then nodded. He sat in the chair beside her bed, arms crossed, eyes watching the soft pulse of the room's night lights. Alara lay down again, this time without fear. Minutes passed. Then, in a small, tired voice, she said, "When I was 10, I saw something that made me stop sleeping. For 2 years, they gave me chemicals, machines, royal physicians. None of it worked." Mark didn't say anything. He didn't need to. She continued. "But last night, for the first time in years, I slept without fear." He looked at her. Her eyes were already closed. And slowly, the princess drifted into a calm, silent sleep. Hours later, long after midnight, Mark stood up quietly and went back to his own bed. He lay down without speaking, without even thinking. His mind was strangely still. For the first time, he fell asleep without dreaming of war. But outside the room, someone had noticed. A small surveillance drone paused at the corner of the hallway, recording silently. Its data stream fed directly to the council. A female voice echoed in the dark chamber across the building. "The princess is bonding with the human. Monitor closely. If this continues, we intervene." The third night began differently. Mark returned early. He had a strange feeling in his chest all day. Something was off. People looked at him too long. Officers whispered when he passed. Even the AI doors paused a second longer before opening, like they were deciding whether to let him in. Room 17 was quiet. Alara stood by the window, arms crossed, her face pale. She didn't greet him this time. Instead, she said, "They want to send me away." Mark stopped in his tracks. "What?" "They say the human interaction is damaging to royal protocol." She turned to him. "But they mean something else." He stepped forward. "Do you know what?" Alara nodded slowly, then tapped the glass window. Far in the distance, outside the embassy, beyond the electric fences and guard drones, there was a tiny structure in the hills. It looked like a maintenance post, but it wasn't. "That's not a power station," she said. "It's where they're keeping my data vault. They moved it without telling me." "Your data vault?" Mark asked. She looked at him. "My memory logs, my royal encryption keys, my childhood files, all locked away from me, and recently accessed. Mark's eyes narrowed. Who would do that? I don't know, but it started right after you arrived. The room fell silent. Alara walked over and pulled out a small disc the size of her palm. She handed it to him. This is a beacon, she whispered. I'm giving it to you. Mark stared at it. Why me? Because if I disappear, someone has to know where I went. Mark looked at her face. There was no fear in her eyes, only quiet defiance, a royal who trusted no one but him. What do you want me to do? He asked. Nothing. Not yet. She smiled slightly. Just sleep near me tonight, like before. But Mark couldn't sleep that night. His mind raced. Someone powerful wanted her away, and the only reason she was still in room 17 was because of one thing. She hadn't told them yet. That she gave him the beacon. That meant he had power now to dot just before dawn. A soft beep woke him. A hidden message flashed on the wall screen. Not embassy code. Royal code. Old. From Alara's people. Mark sat up. The message said, unauthorized access detected. Vault Echo 9. Biological skin mismatch. Threat level. Internal. He looked across the room. Alara was already awake. Eyes locked on the screen. She whispered, they're using my DNA, but it's not me. By morning, the embassy buzzed with silence. Not open fear, but that cold kind of stillness before something dangerous happens. Mark didn't report to his unit. Alara didn't attend the council meeting. Instead, they stayed hidden inside room 17 to figures in the heart of something neither fully understood. Th. At afternoon, Mark followed her down a private hallway beneath the gardens. She said it was a maintenance corridor, but it led somewhere else. At the end, she tapped her hand against a locked door. Her bioskin opened it. Inside, a small operations hub, dark, filled with old Zurak tech. Not even the council knew it was here. This is my last safe place. She said, it's time you knew. On the screen, a map appeared, zoomed into the hills. The fake power station blinked red. That station is not just watching me, she said. It's copying me. Mark felt a chill down his spine. You mean, they're trying to replace you? Alara looked at him. No, worse. They want to use my memory, my voice, my face, to control my people. Without me. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Mark said, you need to get out. I can't, she said. If I run, they'll say I betrayed the embassy. What if I expose it? He asked. They'll silence you. Mark didn't speak. Then, slowly, he pulled the small beacon from his pocket. You gave this to me because you already knew, he said. She looked at him. I'm not afraid, he added. Not anymore. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A voice echoed from the speakers. Unauthorized access. Location logged. Evacuation in 3 minutes. They had been found. Alara grabbed a memory chip from the console. We need to move. Now, together. They ran through the tunnels back to room 17. Before re-entering, she turned to him and said, if I'm taken, don't believe what they say. You've seen the real me. And as the door closed behind them, alarms began to ring across the embassy. Asterisk, they came for her at sunrise. 6 guards. No sound. No warning. Just shadows in silver armor standing outside room 17. Mark woke to the sound of soft metal tapping against the glass. He reached for his belt, his instinct sharp. But it wasn't an attack yet. Princess Alara stood already dressed, calm but cold. I knew they'd come, she whispered. Not tonight, but soon. The lead guard bowed stiffly. Princess Alara, the High Council demands your presence. Under what charge? She asked. No charge. Just concern, the guard said, without emotion. You've become unpredictable. She smiled faintly. That's not a crime, but she followed them without a word. Mark wasn't invited, but he followed from a distance, blending with the embassy's corridors. Every step felt heavier. He'd seen fear before in war, in death, but never in her. And yet now, her silence felt like armor. The council hall was high above the city dome. The room was cold, round, and full of watchful eyes. Seated in a circle were the 13 members of the Galactic High Council, old, powerful, and dangerous. Alara stood alone in the center. A red hologram showed footage room 17. Two figures, a princess and a human soldier, sleeping in the same room. A whisper rippled through the chamber. Counselor Virak spoke first. You understand the weight of your actions? Alara nodded. Perfectly. A Zorak royal sleeping beside a human soldier, he said. It sends signals we can't afford. She raised an eyebrow. To whom? Enemies, or the people tired of old rules? That silenced them for a moment. Then Counselor Mira leaned forward. Why him, out of all species, all ranks? Why trust this one human? Alara replied without blinking. Because he didn't treat me like a weapon, outside. Mark listened from behind the columns. He could hear every word. Then another voice echoed. Did you give him access to your beacon? Did you share classified files? Alara paused. No, it was a lie, but a beautiful one. The council didn't believe her. Not fully, but they couldn't accuse a Zorak royal without evidence. So instead, they used a different tactic. You are to be reassigned, Virak declared. Effective immediately. You'll be moved to the secure royal wing. No more shared quarters. No more human contact. Alara didn't flinch. I refuse. You do not have the power to refuse. Mira snapped. I do, Alara said softly. If I am a symbol, then let me choose what I symbolize. The room filled with silence. Then the head chair, Elder Rana, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but final. If you continue to defy our orders, your royal title will be suspended. Gasps echoed. A Zorak princess, deranked, unthinkable. But Alara didn't back down. She turned, walking away from the circle. Before leaving, she said, if keeping one human close causes fear in this council, maybe you should be afraid. Back in room 17, Mark was waiting. She returned quietly, sat on her bed, and removed the golden rings from her fingers. I may not be a princess tomorrow, she said. Mark leaned against the wall, watching her. They threatened you, she nodded. They want control, not peace. I've known for some time. But now, they've shown their true face. What happens now? He asked. She looked up. Now, I need you to decide something, me. If I walk away from this, if I choose you over everything I was born to protect, will you stand beside me? Mark didn't answer right away. Then, he stepped forward, placed the beacon on the table, and said, I already have. That night, no alarms rang, no soldiers knocked, but for the first time, both of them felt the full weight of what was coming. War wasn't declared. Not yet. But something deeper had already begun. Not a war of weapons, a war of truth. The room was cold. Mark woke to silence and empty kind. No soft breathing, no scent of Zorak incense, no warmth on the other side of the room. Alara was gone, her bed, untouched. No message, no sign of struggle, just gone. He sat up fast, checking the room's AI console. No alerts, no movements recorded, no logs after 3:12 Galactic time. That's when the camera feed froze. Someone had wiped the data. Mark stormed through the corridors. The guards didn't look him in the eye. The officers gave him vague answers. Princess Alara has been relocated, one said. Where? Mark asked. The officer hesitated, then whispered, she's no longer under public registry. That meant one thing. Black site. Off record. No legal oversight. No royal protection. Mark returned to room 17 and opened the small metal locker Alara used. It was empty except for one item, her royal emblem. Broken in half, a symbol of defiance and warning. He knew what he had to do. Mark contacted an old friend, an underground tech smuggler named Kale. A human like him, but one who lived in the shadows of the embassy, trading favors for credits. I need to find a hidden facility, Mark said. One that doesn't exist on any map. Kale raised an eyebrow. You're not supposed to ask that kind of question. I'm not supposed to fall in love with a princess either, Mark replied. Kale smirked. Fair enough. Using stolen security access codes and hacked diplomatic data, they traced a faint power signal underground, west of the embassy. Disguised as an old mining station. No guards, no cameras, just silence, to silent. At midnight, Mark went alone. He moved quietly through the hills, wind rustling the dry silver grass under his boots, his breath fogged in the cool night air. The Entrance was hidden behind old metal crates and weather scanners, just like Alara said in Part 3. He placed his hand on the scanner. Nothing. Then he pulled out the beacon, Alara's gift. The scanner blinked green. Access granted. Inside, it smelled of metal and chemicals. The halls were tight, low-lit, no signs, no names, just smooth walls and silence. Then he heard it. A voice, hers, but not from a person, from a speaker. Diplomatic Unit 317 online. Initiating Royal Protocol. Transferring personality matrix. Confirmed. Mark's heart sank. They were copying her voice, her words, her memories. Building a synthetic Alara one that would obey, follow orders, and replace the real one. That's when he saw the door marked Vault 9. It had blood near the lock. Not old, not dry. Fresh. He broke it open. Inside, she was there, barely conscious, strapped to a vertical chair with silver restraints. Electrodes pulsed near her temples. Her body was shaking, but her eyes snapped open when she saw him. Mark, she whispered. He rushed forward. I'm here. I'm getting you out. They tried to copy me, but I stopped it. I blocked the full transfer, she whispered weakly. That's why they kept me. He broke the restraints. You shouldn't have come, she said. I didn't come for orders, he replied. I came for you. Sirens blared. Security breach detected. Mark picked her up. Her strength was fading fast. As they moved through the tunnels, lights flashed red. Walls closed behind them. Voice commands shouted orders to unknown guards. But Alara whispered, left tunnel, then jump. There's a drop chute. It's how I escaped during royal drills. He trusted her. They jumped. They landed in a crash bed, soft but fast-moving. It carried them through a waste chute, out into the hills beyond the base. Stars above them. Wind on their faces. Freedom temporary, fragile, but real. They lay side by side in the grass, catching breath. Mark turned to her. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. They can copy my voice, but not my mind. He smiled. That's the part one. Like most. Back at the council, reports flooded in. The prototype failed. Princess escaped. Human interference confirmed. Counselor Virak clenched his jaw. She is no longer one of us. But the people still see her as royal, Mira warned. Virak's eyes narrowed. Then we turn her into a criminal. Asterisk. They hid inside the wreckage of an old transport pod. Mark sealed the hatch with scrap metal. No trackers, no signal, no light, just darkness and breath. Alara sat on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. Her long white hair, usually smooth and royal, was tangled with dust and blood. She didn't look like a princess anymore. She looked like someone running from everything she was born into. Mark placed a blanket over her shoulders. We're safe. For now. No, she said. Not safe. Not anymore. Not ever again. Hours passed. Then she finally spoke, not with fear, but with truth. You asked me once what the nightmares were about, she said. Mark nodded slowly. They weren't just memories of war. They were memories I wasn't supposed to have. He looked at her. I'm not a normal Zorak, she whispered. I was born from a secret project. The royal scientists didn't just select DNA, they designed it. I was engineered to be the perfect diplomat and the perfect weapon. Mark's eyes widened. You mean, I was never meant to think freely, never meant to feel, but something went wrong in the process. Or maybe right. I became aware. She pulled a crystal chip from her coat, small, dim, pulsing blue. This has the full archive of the Royal Memory Lab, she said. The council thought it was destroyed. What's in it? Mark asked. Everything. Their experiments, the cloning records, the neural bindings, all the files showing how they built me, and others like me. Mark leaned in. There are more? She nodded. Most didn't survive past childhood. I'm the only one who escaped programming. He whispered, that's why they want to replace you. You're not broken, you're free. Alara met his gaze, and they fear freedom more than war. Suddenly, Mark's wrist device lit up. A private military signal. Encoded message. Human target classified. Order. Detain or eliminate. He showed it to Alara. They've declared me rogue. He said, you saved me. Now they'll say you kidnapped me, she replied. They'll turn the truth upside down. Alara looked into the dark, her voice soft but clear. Then let's give them a truth to big silence. By morning, They moved to an abandoned satellite base once used for border patrol, now forgotten. There, they activated a hidden comm line. Alara used her personal encryption to send one signal to all free worlds. You were lied to. I am not the heir they want. I am the proof of their crimes. If you still believe in freedom, meet me at the moon of Irana. It wasn't just a message. It was a declaration. Back at the council, chaos erupted. They went public. Counselor Mira hissed. Her voice reached 6 systems in under 1 hour. She's forcing a rebellion, Virak growled. No, Elder Rana said. She's forcing us to admit who we really are. Virak stood. We've finished this. We silence her. Now. Meanwhile, Mark sat beside her as the stars turned slowly above. You know this means war, he said. She nodded. I never wanted war, she said. I just wanted to sleep without fear. And now, I want others to have the same. Mark reached out, holding her hand. You don't have to fight alone anymore. Then she said something he would never forget. They built me to end wars with silence. But I choose to end silence with truth. The next morning, ships began to arrive, small crafts from independent planets, pirate groups, even former council soldiers. Each brought one thing, belief. The belief that Alara was not just a princess, she was a turning point. And above them, far in orbit, council ships began to gather. The final move was near. Not just for a throne, not just for one life, but for the truth itself. The stars were no longer silent. Above the moon of Irana, 2 fleets hovered, one glowing with the silver light of freedom, the other shadowed by the red banners of the council. On the ground, Princess Alara stood atop the base's signal tower. Her long cloak moved with the cold lunar wind. She held no crown, no army behind her, just a broadcast device and truth. Beside her stood Mark, dusty, tired, scarred, but unshaken. They had nothing left to hide. The council's voice came. First, Alara of House Zurak, surrender. You are stripped of title, rank, and protection. She pressed the calm button. Her voice echoed across planets. You cannot strip me of what I never truly had. You called me princess, but I was your project, your property. I am neither. Across the galaxy, ships turned on their feeds. Pilots listened. Colonies paused. I am not here to be your ruler. I am here to tell the truth. They built me, then tried to silence me. I escaped. I survived. And I chose to feel. That makes me real. The council responded with silence. Then weapons charged. Dozens of council cruisers began powering their pulse. Cannons. Mark grabbed her arm. We need to move. They're going to fire. But Alara didn't run. Instead, she activated the beacon, the same one she had once handed to Mark in secret. A signal burst into space, illuminating the hidden files of her creation and her suffering. Live, unfiltered, unstoppable. The truth was now public. Inside the enemy ships, soldiers hesitated. Some lowered their weapons. Others turned off guidance systems. Then, the unexpected happened. A Zurak general, loyal to Alara's father, opened a direct channel. Council command overridden. Target lock disabled. Standing down. One by one, others followed. The council's fleet began to break apart. Not from battle, from disobedience. Mark stared at the screens. You did it, he said. They're turning away. Alara looked at the stars. They didn't choose me. They chose the truth. He smiled. Same thing. Hours later, the council was gone, not defeated by weapons, but by truth they could no longer hide. But now came the question, what next? The ships that stayed behind began forming a new alliance, one not ruled by bloodlines, but by shared values. They offered Alara a throne. She refused. Inside the old lunar station, Mark watched her speak to the new council forming on the ground floor. He waited, leaning against a pillar. When she finished, she walked toward him slowly. I told them no, she said. You could have ruled. I don't want to rule, she replied. I just want to be here. Mark raised an eyebrow. On a cold moon, she stepped closer. No, with you. He didn't know what to say, but he didn't need to. She took his hand and placed something small into it, the second half of her broken royal emblem. You kept me human, she said. So I'm staying where I feel most real. Later that night, They returned to room 17, or what remained of it, a reconstruction, built from memory, to beds, a small window, and silence between two people who no longer needed words. Alara looked out the window. No longer a princess, no longer a secret, just herself. Mark turned off the lights, and for the first time since it all began, she whispered, "Good night, Mark," and he replied, smiling softly, "Good night, Alara." And this time, she stayed.